friends, welcome to week 2 of the Fort Worth Fabric Studio American Made Sew Along. This week, if you haven't guessed it yet, we're going to make stars. As you can see, I've made a couple of them. They're on the wall behind me, so that's what they're going to look like. We're going to make 4 stars, one of each color of the blue printed fabrics. So let's go ahead and get started. Luckily, Fort Worth Fabric Studio decided to do the quicker methods of making half square triangles, if there are quicker methods. But we're going to do the 8 at a time and 4 at a time. So I'm going to show you how to sew those with the last 2 that I have left. And then you can get all 4 of yours sewn there at home. All right, let's get started. Okay, well here I have some of my fabrics for the stars. What you're going to do with all the 5-inch squares is you're going to lay your background square on top of your 5-inch square. And just check your pattern for which squares you need. I'm going to set that aside for just a second, and then you're going to take your 8-inch squares and you're going to lay your background piece on top of this firework looking piece, red, white, and blue. And on this one, we're going to draw a line corner to corner both directions. We're going to do the 8 at a time method with this one, and we're going to do the 4 at a time method with this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing my line corner to corner. And you're going to do this on both sets of the 8-inch squares. And you're going to lay all of your 5-inch pieces this way. And I do apologize because last week I did in some of the cutting videos say 5.5 or 8.5. I was working on a project right before I started that had half sizes, and these were all whole sizes. So I was using them interchangeably incorrectly, and I do apologize for that. I know some of you had caught that and corrected me. So hopefully you followed your instructions when you're cutting, but if not, and you listen to me, at least they're too big and not too small. But make sure you always follow your patterns too. I'm here to sort of help guide you through this, but I am human and do make mistakes, so I do apologize for that. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 5-inch squares. So the 5-inch squares, we are going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way around the outside of the square. So we're going to kind of do that. And what I'm going to do is first turn my sewing machine on, because that would help. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start and just sew down. I'm going to sew down the one edge, and rather than trying to figure out where the 1/4 inch is to stop when I get down here, I'm actually just going to sew right off the edge, pull my fabric out a little bit, not cutting the thread, turn my piece, and then start on the next edge doing the 1/4 inch. Again, I'm not I'm sewing like one stitch off the edge, pulling my piece out. You can see there my thread is still attached. I'm not cutting it, and just turning it. Do the same thing again. Now, if you're somebody who knows where a 1/4 inch is by eyeballing it, you could go ahead and pivot and turn to do your next seam line. If you're not comfortable sewing off the edge, or you can just do what I just did. As you can see, it comes out just fine. So I'm going to set that one aside for a minute. That was my blue and my white background. Now I'm going to do this guy here. So this guy. So what we're going to do with this guy to make the 8 at a time, this is the 4 at a time, this is the 8 at a time. To do this guy, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of the drawn line. Now you're going to do this for all of your pairs, and you should have, I believe, 2, 4, 6, 8 pair, I think. Don't quote me though, because I'm not looking at the instructions right now, but I believe 8 pair. 2 pair of each of the different blue 5-inch fabrics. Same thing with this. I'm just going to pull it out and whip it around. I'm not even going to cut the thread. Put my presser foot back down on the other side. I got to cut my thread after that one. So now I'm going to do the same thing on, I sewed this line. Now I'm going to go on the 1/4 inch on either side of this line. Nothing difficult this week, but lots of half square triangles to cut, or to make and cut and trim. So this might take you a little bit of time. Okay, so now I've sewn a 1/4 inch on either side of both drawn lines. I'm going to set that one aside for just a minute. We're going to cut this guy first. Okay, let me grab my rotary cutter. Oh, here he is. All right, and I've got my rotating mat out, which is going to help here. I'm going to put this guy right on the diagonal line on my rotating cutting mat, and we're going to cut this guy corner to corner. Okay, so I'm going to cut it that way, and then I'm going to turn my mat, and these guys came apart a little bit. And I'm going to cut it across the other way. So, as you can see, that left me with 4 half square triangles. After I open them, they'll look like half square triangles. All right, and we're going to trim these down to 3 inches, but we're going to have to give these guys a press first. Unless you're using the Clearly Perfect Slotted Trimmer way of trimming, then you can cut them first and then press them. Get this guy open really quick. All right, I'm going to set these aside for just a minute because I actually forgot to turn my iron on. I'm going to plug my iron in, and then we'll cut that last guy there, and then we'll iron all these. Okay, so this one's a little bit different than that last one. We're going to cut this one apart as well, and we are going to cut it apart on the diagonals that we drew, but we're also going to cut it apart vertically and horizontally. So we need to find the center point, which for this one, since it's an 8-inch block, it's going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to put the 4-inch mark on my ruler right there, and hopefully, if I sewed this correctly, the other end of my ruler is going to go right through the center, and you'll be able to tell right where those lines cross that you drew. And I'm going to cut this vertically. Then I'm going to turn my mat. Hopefully this doesn't move. It moved for me. Oops, that's okay. It happens. I'm going to line up on the 4 marking again, and I'm going to go right through the center again, horizontally. Well, it's vertical now, but it was horizontal. Okay, now that those are done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to cut on those lines that we drew. So I'm going to cut the diagonal. So you're cutting both directions diagonally and also horizontally and vertically through the center of the block. I hope that makes sense. For the 8-inch square. Okay? So, just be able to pull those apart. There we go. And we've got our 8. So one of the 8-inch blocks is going to supply all the half square triangles for 2 of your squares that you're making, or 2 of your stars that you're making. So it's going to be the centers right here, and what we just cut supplies 2 of these blocks, and we're making 4 blocks all together. So that's done. The cutting for the center is done. Now we just have to, I'm going to move this mat. Now we just have to press these guys and trim them down, and then we can start laying out the block. So I'm going to grab my iron, and we got a lot of guys here to press. So definitely not hard blocks, and hopefully the 4 at a time and 8 at a time helps you a little bit because it's going to help you go a little bit faster. If we did only 2 at a time, this might take a while. See if they got warm. Yes. Okay. Give these guys a good press, get them nice and flat before we trim them. And we're going to trim these down to 3 inches square. All of these and the center ones. Now these ones just have a tiny bit that we're shaving off. Your center ones have quite a bit, the way that the method that they had us do, but I don't mind that at all. I'd rather have half square triangles that were too big than ones that were just barely going to make it, and then maybe we sewed too large of a seam allowance and then they were too small. So I'm happy to take a little off. Oh, this fabric, this flower fabric is my favorite, I think, from the whole thing. They're all beautiful fabrics though, but that's just gorgeous. Okay. Now I'm going to, you can see these are a bit bigger than those, so we're definitely going to be trimming a little bit more of these off. Press these guys open, and then we're going to trim them on. So lots of practice with half square triangles today. Don't forget, this is a quick sew along, so next week we'll be sewing a different kind of block, and then the following week we'll be putting it all together. So just like that, we'll be done. Should be nice because we'll be able to have this in time for our summer holidays here in the United States. Now, don't forget to go to the Facebook group after you're done today and post progress pictures. We love seeing your photos over there, where you're at with your project, whether you're sewing with the kitted fabric or your own fabrics. We just like seeing everyone's progress. I know several people have said they just ordered a kit, and I'm really excited about that, that you saw the fabric last week and you liked it enough to kind of step in and order a kit and sew. But you'll have, and if you're just getting it now, no worries. The cutting this time, because it's a table runner, smaller, it went fairly quickly, so I think you'll be able to catch up no problem. I'm excited to see new people stepping in this time, and excited to see all the same people that have been coming come back again. So that's been really fun. Okay, got all those guys ironed. Now we're going to do the trimming. Alrighty, so this one's quite a bit because here's my 3-inch square. So we're taking almost 3/4 of an inch off of this one, but that's okay. Like I said, I'd rather take extra than have a square that's too small. So this fabric that is going to be our centers really looks like fireworks. It's very pretty. Makes me smile every time I look at it. Okay, so here's a one of the smaller ones I wanted to show you. There's not nearly, here's my 3-inch. As you can see, there's not nearly as much with this one. Just little bits. So this one, be a little bit more careful. Okay. Lots of fabric dust on this. Okay, 4 more. Now I'm just using a regular ruler so that way any beginners out there who might not have all the specialty rulers can see how I'm cutting this. But if you have the specialty rulers, the block lock, the clearly perfect slotted trimmer, things like that, feel free to use that. That'll probably make this process go a little quicker. Okay, last one. Yay! I know I'm the world's slowest cutter. I'm sorry. It's my OCD. I have to make sure everything's perfectly lined up for my brain to be able to say, okay, go ahead and cut. All right. There we go. Try to hit my ruler, close my rotary cutter, lay these guys out. All right, so to make this block, I'm gonna lay this guy out here. you're going to have all your firework, that's what we're going to call it, because I think that's what it looks like. All your firework fabric is going to be in the center. And then, this was tricky when I made this block earlier for my brain. We're making stars, but the stars are going to be with the white, not the blue. So my brain wanted to turn these where the blue was the star legs. So I had to really think hard about this because it's not too often that we use white as the star legs. Usually we use the color. So this was a tricky one for me. I had to keep turning these guys. So make sure you pay really close attention to the diagrams and you do that. Okay. So basically you're going to have your blues sort of like an arrow pointing in, like almost like a flying geese, or an arrow pointing in towards your center. And then grab your 3-inch squares that we cut in week 1 that go along with this of the same fabric and lay out everything just like that, okay? All right, now we can go ahead and sew this together, and I'm going to go ahead and sew the center of this other one as well. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and sew these in rows. Okay, there's one row. Do the next row. And obviously these aren't pressed yet, so it kind of looks probably funky. I'm trying to keep them in order so I don't confuse myself. Okay, looks like I got that right. The white star legs are really throwing me off. It's going to be really pretty though. I really love all these blues, so the blue being the showcase instead of the white, I know I'm going to love that. last row. And then we'll press all these and then sew the rows together and the block will be done. Okay, there we go, and it looks like I assembled them correctly. That's good. There's a little nervous there. All right, so I'm gonna press each row opposite direction so they'll nest together nicely. And then one hint I will say, when I put the first two together, they got pretty bulky in the centers when I put the rows together. So I ended up pressing the rows, once the rows were together in the block, I ended up pressing those open. Now, I know some of you don't like to press open. That's okay. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm just letting you know that it does get pretty bulky and I felt like it really needed to be pressed open. So that's just what I did. Okay. Oop. Okay. There. All right, now we can sew the rows together. These should go together fairly easily since we just pressed them as opposite directions. The hardest part about this block is trimming all the half square triangles. Sorry for that little blip. Our power blinked off. We had a little thunderstorm pass through. So that was fun. I did get my rows, those two rows together, so you'll have two pieces that look like this. Now I'm going to sew this last bit together and then our block will be done. What I did want to show you is I did press this open along with that one. I pressed open because they're really bulky where they meet there. So just what I did, again, not what you have to do. This is the last bit here. And don't forget, you're making 4 of these blocks, one of each of the blue colors, so they're going to be really pretty. Last seam on that one. All right, we're going to give that one a press. Iron. And again, I'm going to press the seam open. Very bulky here. And I usually press it from the back and the front if I'm pressing open and it's super bulky. That seems to help quite a bit. Oh yeah, that block is getting nice and flat now. Okay, there we go. So that's what a finished block will look like. And I believe they were supposed to finish at 10.5, but let me just double check that. Yes, 10.5 inches. So each block should finish at 10.5 inches. And like I said, he'll make 4 of these. All right, well, that was week 2 of the American Made Fort Worth Fabric Studio. I hope you enjoyed that. These stars aren't really hard to do. They just take a little bit of time because of all the half square triangles. But as you can see, they come out really beautiful. I cannot wait to see what we do next week. Hopefully it's not as many half square triangles, but I'm not sure, so we'll see. All right, guys, we'll take care, and I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great week, and I will see you really soon. Bye!